So let's give Sophie Banner a big, warm Clark College welcome.
So I understand this is the last class, and I need to be brief. And I honestly, so I've made my career, I'm Sophie Banner, and I work at the City of Vancouver. I do communications, and I'm kind of a half and half. So I do internal communication, so like employee wellness, newsletters, and then I do digital communication, so all our social media, and we have an app, which I'll talk about. But I've made my career, even though I'm a communications person, I'm usually behind the scenes, so I never really like speaking. So the more you can interrupt me and not make me feel like I'm just talking at you, the better. So, oh, go ahead.
Can do.
Question.
Robert will interrupt.
That's all I got.
Okay.
We can do that. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk mostly about social media today because I feel like that applies mostly to all of you who are studying web-related careers. I'm by no means a web designer, although I've maintained web pages, but social media and digital marketing is kind of my thing. So I thought I'd kick off with this fun video. I apologize if you've seen it, but this is what happens, and this is an example or a perfect showcase of how reliant we are now on internet.
My desk is on the 7th floor. If you need anything, you can call me. Make sure to keep your ID with you because you're going to need to badge in every time you re-enter. Cafeteria is on the 4th floor, and we generally take lunch about 12:30.
This is where I'm sitting?
For now, yeah. With the big move coming up, it's kind of crazy around here. I promise it's only temporary.
All right, thank you.
Was she yelling Sophie or selfies?
Selfie. Oh yeah, that's Sophie. Yeah. And what would we do without our phones telling us where to go, as far as maps?
Probably not freak out, crash
yeah,
into the nearest
true.
person. But,
that's true, but it's insane.
Where's the ocean? Where's the mountains?
I just love the idea that, you know, we're talking about Apple Watches and all the newer iPhones, and the guy's rocking an OG Apple, like, iPod. Like, yeah, all right.
I know, and his little desk ornaments. Okay, so again, I work for the City of Vancouver, and all of you, are you all from Clark County, Vancouver area? So, pretty much. So I was a transplant from Portland, but I was one of the people that when I moved here a few years ago to start working at the city in communications, I was just eating up all the exciting things that were happening. But unfortunately in communications, we're always overshadowed as far as media attention goes by Portland. Broadcast outlets don't like to cover us. But luckily, news is becoming something that we can control, thankfully, because of social media. So this is kind of, I'm just going to take you through a story, I guess, of ways that we've grown our engagement with the community and become our own news station at the city with our social media channels. But first, a little bit about my background. So I graduated in 2008. I studied public relations at Chapman University. And when I graduated, I felt like every single communications job I applied for, they wanted me to be the social media person. So they wanted like the younger, up and coming, everyone needed to know social media, but no one understood it. So mom blogs were a really big thing. I don't know if anyone's read any of those. Blogging was pretty new. I guess it was becoming more mainstream. It had always been around. And then Twitter was pretty new, and we only had Facebook at my school for 2 years. So we were all learning along the way, but in every job that I've had since then, I've kind of become that go-to social media person. So, but what I've learned from this is no matter what brand I work for, and these are some of the brands I've worked for in my career, all the same rules apply as far as social media goes. And it's about really communicating in an authentic way, being service-oriented, if that makes sense, and having fun. So, has anyone used a neti pot?
No.
Yes.
I love it.
I used to spend 8 hours a month searching about what celebrities were saying about neti pots.
Is that for allergies?
I'm not, it's social media monitoring. So if like Gwyneth Paltrow loves neti pots, we had to see what she was saying about them and then send her free neti pots. It was miserable. And then Barbie, I was the voice of Barbie during her 50th anniversary year, so that was in 2009. And again, it was crazy. I mean, obviously a more demanding client, but the same rules as far as responding to people, having fun, creating engaging events applied equally as they do now that I'm at the City of Vancouver. So that's a little background on me. What does city communications do? This is probably the coolest picture we have, but we're really kind of not cool. So we're a pretty small team, but we're basically, I like to think of us as the communications agency for the city. So we represent all of the city departments in talking about and communicating the story of what each department does. And that could be anything from police to fire to public works to parks and recreation and anything in economic development. So all the things that are happening on the waterfront downtown, we talk about that because the park is something the city funded, and then all the development efforts are something the city has taken a big part in. So we tell the story of the city, what we do, how it helps, and we tell taxpayers where their money goes. So it seems kind of boring, but it's actually very exciting because we get to talk about the cool people, the cool businesses that are moving in here. So the brewery scene that's kind of popped up overnight in Vancouver, all the older buildings that are being revitalized, and the really cool history of the city. We have 18 social media channels that I manage. But when I say I manage, it's definitely a team effort. We have videographers who help us, so producers. We have a photographer who works on a contract basis that helps us with photography. And what we've experienced is a huge growth in number of followers since we've started using new tools on social media. So we've doubled since I came there in the past couple of years, and we now have a combined with all our channels 562,000 followers. So more than the city, which is 172,000. Okay, so I just wanted to summarize because I didn't really know how I was going to synthesize all this crap that I was putting in this PowerPoint, my key lessons. And I think what I've learned so far is from a social media standpoint is that it's definitely not a one-person job to manage social media. I feel like a lot of companies hire people expecting them to just do it on the side. But it's literally become the best way to reach the most people with the least amount of money. So websites are awesome, but they're more, I feel like, a static reflection or a brochure about what you do, while social media is live, active now, and it's where people are going to find their news. So I feel like it should be more invested in. The consider your why, I think a lot of people just retweet, tweet, like to like for the sake of it doing so. I always tell people that you should think about first why you're posting or retweeting, and does it go back to what your values are as a brand or a company. Does anyone work for or represent social media for companies right now? Does anyone have an interest in that, or is it just...
Yeah, I mean, I've in the past I've had to be that person that you walk in and say,
yeah.
Oh, here's the social media accounts, do something with them.
They're like, just tweet for us. And you're like, well, what is your, like, who are you? And what are your goals? So, yeah.
We're kind of doing it right now for our Phoenix literary art cover contest. We're in charge of doing our own social media to announce our book and collections, submissions, and how the community in our school.
Oh, cool. Wait, for what is it?
It's the Phoenix. It's our literary art journal. We collect all the student work. They've been around in Vancouver for almost 30 years.
Oh, cool. We'll have to like that. I mean, we'll have to like share some of your stuff on the city. Another quick lesson is the taking risks. When Live came out, which I think is a year and a half ago now on Facebook, Twitter had Periscope before, but when Live came out, there was a lot of fear around doing it, especially in the city capacity, because people are like, what if someone says something mean and they don't like the government, like that kind of stuff. So taking risks, that was a big one for us, going live every week. And then lightening up. So while there is a function to being business and sharing the news and talking about what's happening in the city council on Monday night, there is definitely a big place for being light and conversational on Facebook and Twitter, and also being funny, because when you post fun things, then people see your more serious things because they more often like what you're posting that's not so serious. So there's definitely a big place for being light and fun. And I just love that picture of the mouse. Okay. So I don't know if you guys have talked about trolls at all, but a big thing for the city is trolling. There's always going to be haters, so people who don't agree with you. And we don't work for the mayor in communications, and we don't work for the city council. We just represent the work of the city. So the outcomes that happen, we communicate about them, but we don't advocate or politicize issues. So there's always haters, and I have to deal with most of them. But we've created a policy, and I think that's the biggest thing, is having a public policy that's short, that you can refer back to, and not adding fuel to a troll's fire. So we have some trolls that like to harass police, we have some trolls that like to harass city council, but they're all essentially the same people. They're always going to be there to try to get attention. So we usually, or my typical response is, you only respond once to a troll, and if they continue in a dialogue, obviously you don't keep going. But if there's a way to educate people, we respond. And refer to the policy. Another thing is having a personal page tied to your social media accounts that you're managing. I know none of you are doing this right now, but for the future, Facebook is trying to get you to associate your personal profile with the pages that you manage, which can be good or bad. It adds there's a real person behind this, but then trolls can find your personal information and they can directly attack you. So we had a guy this year that was calling me over and over again, calling our city manager and our mayor, trying to get me fired because he had found on Twitter, because I share that I'm a city employee on Twitter, that I managed or was somehow associated with social media. So there's a risk to having that information on your personal page. So I think my big thing was putting on my personal page that anything I post there is not an opinion or an official stance of my workplace, which is, I guess, probably...
Disclaimers?
Yeah, disclaimers. I guess that's pretty obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. And it can be sticky when our legal department had to get involved because we had to block someone and they said we were, it was their First Amendment right to post whatever they wanted, but it was unrelated to anything, and it was about police brutality in another state. It was in Texas, so we have a policy. If it's not related to the content we're putting up, we're not going to let it stay up.
My wife, when she was being interviewed for a job. She had been a fairly popular vlogger, and they were very concerned about her vlog and how it reflected on this is a public educational agency, so they didn't want her to do any of that while she was at
to keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because the lines are so blurred now, and all of these channels want you to blur them even more.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, you have to protect yourself, especially if you have family, and yeah, I don't know, it's difficult. And that could be something like on a case-by-case basis a company is going to have to decide. Okay, another big thing for us is video, and I was never a videographer, but there's so many free tools. Does anyone make videos, like edit their own videos? Yeah, it's so easy. Now anyone can be a I mean, I feel bad for professional photographers and videographers, but it's easier than ever and it's cheaper than ever to make nice quality videos. So we started doing 80% of our content instead of images and text. We started doing video, and the amount of engagement on our page literally was off the charts, especially in the first year that Live came out. So we've developed this really transportable, non-invasive package. I have a double selfie stick. That's Carol, the blonde woman. She's our communications director, and she likes talking, or being in front of the camera. And I created this double selfie stick so we can stream with two phones, my work phone and my personal phone, live onto Twitter and Facebook simultaneously. Has anyone done this?
No.
If you do it with two cameras, they look at one and then the other one's like the side of their face, so it's awkward. So I made a double selfie stick with gaff tape, but now we've patent pending. People love them. So we use that. Yeah, we use that, and then we go, and sometimes we use lighting depending on where we're going, but the point of this weekly live series is showing Vancouver all of the exciting new businesses that are opening. This is Banfield. We had a lot of dogs. It was fun. Although he got fired. That's the CEO. And new things that are happening in general with the city. So waterfront, construction updates, behind the scenes with our fire department because people love fire. Really just showing anything that tells a story about what city services do, how they impact your day-to-day life, and new or economic growth in the city. So we got 5 times more comments than any other video when we started doing live.
Is that the walk thing?
Oh no, that's in here too, but yeah, that's
okay.
a newer one.
That's what you were talking about.
Oh, do you watch that one?
Yeah, sometimes.
So we just started that, and I'll get to that one in a second. And we had, in the year that we did these Quick Casts, we did a 77% increase, or we had a 77% increase, so this is 2016, in our number of followers. So obviously, Facebook and Twitter love live, or they give I think favoritism to it, like they show it and promote it to more people. I'll just show you, has anyone seen this one, the Quick Cast? This is a really dumb, or it's not, this is a simple montage that shows you, gives you a taste
Hello
of all the business
everybody,
we
welcome to this week's Vancouver Quickcast. Today we are broadcasting live from one of the Vancouver community's treasured sites, the Fort Vancouver National Historic Site. And we are excited to have 2 guests with us today. First up, we're going to have Mike True from the Fort Vancouver National Trust and the city's fire marshal, Heidi Scarpelli. Woo! So first, let's talk to Mike. Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
Good. Hey, so for those of you who may have just moved,
So this is actually the wrong video, but this is an example of one that we did with the fire marshal in Fort Vancouver, where we talked about what fireworks you should and shouldn't use, and since all of them have been banned. Yes, which some are happy and some are not, and that was a whole other social media campaign. But it's very simple. I use a double selfie stick. I use a hotspot on my phone, and we do these every week. Ask Benoit is the quarterly update that you were mentioning, and that is, it goes back to our goal of trying to reach more residents and hear what they think and respond to their questions, because so many people do not go to a council meeting. Has anyone been to a city council meeting? Okay, that's actually really awesome. Oh, okay. Well, they have a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of formalities, it's very slow, it's on a Monday night. So with social media, we want to bring the things that are happening at City Council to more people. So Ask Vancouver's goal is really just to, people pre-submit questions using a hashtag AskVanWa, and we get hundreds of questions from residents about all sorts of issues, from homelessness to jobs to the I-5 bridge, which the city has no control over because that's a state project. And so our city manager then goes live and talks to people about the key projects the city is working on and then answers those questions. And I was shocked because it's very boring when you see here a man just sitting at a table in his office, because that's where he's comfortable. But we got 4,800 views, which is quite a bit without boosting on social media for us. And this had previously been, he'd done updates on a quarterly basis to neighborhood leaders, so he was only telling about 12 people what was going on at the city, and otherwise no one would have known. So now we're reaching more people about regarding really important things that affect, everyone's day-to-day life if you live in the city. Okay, if anyone, and I understand most of you don't do social media, but live video, again, it works very well. I just threw out some ideas for things that we have covered and might inspire you to cover in your future endeavors. So National Day Calendar is like my best friend. Has anyone used that? nationaldaycalendar.org. So it shows you,
holiday.
It shows you every day of every month, every week, and every month that has any national association. So I think today is like National, Dirty Sock. It's just, there's something every day, and it's trending on Twitter. You can see it's tell a great story in 4 words. That was trending today. So we use the National Day Calendar, and we've done everything from National Squirrel Day, where we go out in Esther Short Park and film the squirrels hopping around. And these are just great ways to find people that haven't otherwise followed your page, because it's trending and it pops up in their general area. And they're just fun. Business openings. So has anyone been to 6th and Broadway, that 150-year-old building that got, the Schofield building that has Nanabo and Little Conejo? So that building was dead for 30 years. It was dead for a long time, and it took a lot of upgrades. So an owner or the investor came in and worked with the city to renovate it, to bring it to code, to put new business in there. And now it's filled. Well, there's a few more on the other side that need to be filled. But covering things like that, any business opening, groundbreaking. So when our waterfront park started, we did a groundbreaking video. Q&As like we did with our city manager. So, and any behind the scenes. So before an event happens, as you're setting up, do a live video with the people who are taking part in the event, something like that. Okay, so here's a few examples of the big things that help boost our engagement on social media. And again, I'm going to emphasize, we boost a lot of posts, but when I say boost, I'm talking $1,200 for a whole year to reach thousands of people. So that's nothing you could ever get in the Columbian,
So I'm sorry, when you say boost, does that mean that another way of saying advertising?
Oh yeah,
different?
Any ad, yeah. So anytime I boost a post, I'm thinking I'm advertising or making sure that it's promoted to more people and guaranteeing more people see it. But if you run an ad in a newspaper, it's $2,700, maybe for a corner. But with social media, everyone's on it, and you guarantee, well, at least for our page, when we do something like a $10 investment, we get back so much more return. So 5,000 views, 100 clicks. There's a lot of ways to segment it. And you can also reach, through boosting, people that wouldn't otherwise look at your page. So people that might speak Spanish as the first language, people in specific zip codes that might be affected or impacted by construction. It's really powerful. So, Best City Hall campaign, did anyone see this? Okay, so basically we have this gorgeous modern LEED Gold certified building. It has kind of a shady backstory. Does anyone know the backstory? Bruce probably does.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
The Columbian went bankrupt right before the recession, and the city bought the building in order to, we needed to condense services, but they bought it at a 50% market rate, and then decided to rent, because they had built this gorgeous building and then they couldn't afford to keep it. And it was at the center of downtown. It's right next to Esther Short Park. So we bought this building and we rented it to private tenants on the top. There's a marketing agency, and then Microsoft has an office, and now an architectural firm. But we got it at a really good deal, but we were criticized for buying. I guess at this time the city was like, downtown wasn't as vibrant as it is now. But it was actually a great thing because it was the start of transforming downtown. So Esther Short got cleaned up, the park right next to it right after, the waterfront started being developed. And it's actually been a great, I guess, gathering space for community. And it actually saved the city money because they consolidated 9 different buildings or 9 different separate locations into one for about 400 employees that work there. So the City Hall campaign is basically like this emerging local government leader organization put a nationwide call out, and it went out to Paris or several other larger cities outside the country. And they said, who has the most beautiful city hall? We need your public votes to determine this. So it started out with residents nominating city halls. So I don't know who nominated us, but we ended up in this 65 city pool as a finalist for most beautiful city hall. And those were cities like Seattle was on there, of course, Portland, New York, Vegas, Philadelphia, so larger cities. And through social media, and a lot of business leaders and a lot of residents, we ended up getting to the final round in this campaign. So it was a 6-week competition. Los Angeles was in there too. So big cities that have huge followings. And through basically a lot of social media, we used opinion leaders like the Trailblazers to help us out. We capitalized on things like King Kong was coming out, so any hashtag that was trending anywhere, we had used or created posts with. We reached out to the Seahawks, who also retweeted us, a number of their players. We did lunchtime selfie stations, because the more City Hall selfies you got, it would double your votes. We created graphics that people could use on their own Facebook pages. And what it really did, beyond just being this is a frilly campaign to get attention for City Hall, is it made people come to City Hall that had never otherwise been there, and go onto our Facebook page and see all the things that were happening. Go ahead.
Like questions.
Yeah.
Unless you're like working in government, why would somebody want to go to City Hall?
Why would they?
Yeah.
Well, there's public spaces. Well, there's public spaces that people can use at City Hall, and it is where all of public meetings happen concerning any major issue. So we just had a forum on the homeless day, the new proposed day center. I don't know if anyone's...
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was about 130 people there. So it's the epicenter, I guess, of where public meetings and decisions happen.
So is that kind of like our town hall?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So it was a great way to not only get exposure for, yes, we have this beautiful, and everyone's invited to come see City Hall if you haven't been there. There's a lot of cool rooms that you could use for your own use if you need. But it became a great tool to get more people interested in government. So we had a lot of businesses supporting, a lot of people just asking questions about what we were doing, and I think paying more attention. So we ended up getting second place to a college town, Peoria, Illinois, and I think that was because that's what I've come down to. Because we had about 30,000 votes, 300 people submitted different selfies, 60,000 retweets, and we got 600 followers in that 6-week campaign time, which was crazy large for us as far as an increase. And it really just built pride in the city. It became more about loving Vancouver and less about the building itself. Yeah, so that's one example. And then, does anyone build their own apps? Or has ever? Mm-hmm. Bruce. So another tool to make government more transparent, we launched, does anyone have this app? Bruce, download it, it's so good. So it's free in iTunes, or if you have Android, that Google Play Store. I'm not as familiar with Android. But this app is basically your direct connection, other than social media, to people at City Hall or any segment of City Hall when you have an issue. So you download the app, it's free. There's a number of service request areas that you can submit on. If you have any question about city government, you can send it through there. And what I do is I route it to the right person to get it answered. And you track the status of that the entire way through. So a resident submits a pothole, for instance, in their neighborhood. They see that it's been submitted, they see when we've received it, they see when it's in progress, and they see when it's done. And then we can go back and forth in a public way to show them or answer questions along the way. So it's been tremendously successful as far as making the process more transparent. It used to be you have to call this number during business hours and leave a voicemail, and it was very hard to reach an actual person. Now everyone can see in their neighborhood who submitted a complaint, a request, a question. So it's been really successful in that way. And it's made everyone more aware of customer service at the city. So everyone's super stressed, they have a lot on their plate. There's only so many crews that can fill potholes, but this, because they have a visual representation of what they need to do and that public can see it, it's made people more accountable to fixing issues. So you can do the service request, you can find events that are coming up, you can find a bunch of local spots by category, so if you want to see where post offices are, breweries, you can do so on the app. You can pay your parking ticket or your utility bill. So it's really easy to use if you know how to use apps. It's super intuitive. We've had to date, we have 6,200 users, which isn't a ton. We need more, so we probably need to market it more. And 90% of all requests that come in are completed. So it's pretty awesome in that way.
Can I ask why you said you needed more users? Is it to pay for itself, or?
No, I just think that it's such a handy tool. If people are still calling and leaving a voicemail, it seems like they're wasting their time because it's going to be so much faster on here.
Roger.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it just makes more sense to do it in the easiest way possible. And I would rather not call and wait on anyone. So this streamlines it. I'm going to skip this because it's kind of boring. This is an example of another way this app has helped us make connections. So a resident had emailed and complained that their mutt mitts, so the poop bags for your dogs, are always out in their park. And that is actually not something that our public works crews have the bandwidth to always refill, as soon as they're, we just don't have enough staff to do it. But we do have a volunteer program, a neighborhood volunteer program, where neighbors themselves volunteer to fill mutt mitt bags and the city provides them. So this person got super excited. They connected with our volunteer person, and this is all through, going through one person. I know exactly who they should talk to. And then they became a volunteer, and they're the official mutt mitt bag filler in their neighborhood park. So random connections have come out of the app. It's been pretty awesome. And then my final example is the most recent survey that we've done. So we have this community survey that we send out every year to see how we're doing as a city. And typically it's by phone, or traditionally it was by phone, and they had about 300 participants because, I don't want to be spammed at dinner or have to answer a phone call, and where I'm going to be kept on the phone for at least 15 minutes. So what we did was we created miniature surveys, so miniature versions of this longer survey, and we sent those 3 surveys out via social media. And to get people's attention, because it's not enough to just say, why do you love Vancouver, how are we doing? We did this photo shoot and video series featuring dolls enjoying the city. So my Barbie history came back full circle. We kind of we turned them into Vancouverites. So all the dolls they kind of look Vancouver, like he's at Compass with his hipster hair, and he has it's very intentional, and he has his plaid shirt. So we wanted to get people's attention. And overall, it was very positive. People thought it was funny.
Like Elf on a Shelf,
it's
Elf on a Shelf for Vancouver.
Yeah, but we also mentioned the hipster Barbie. It's really popular on Instagram. That was one that I followed before, and it's making fun of people doing everyday things, but with dolls on Instagram.
You're familiar with the Seattle Times? We're number 1. Vancouver, really?
No.
Oh my gosh, okay. Vancouver, Washington, there's this European study done. And I mean, Tacoma ranked on this. The criteria was, so we're number one in being hip. It's number of tattoo parlors.
Yeah. That's
you know
what we were just talking about that. I thought you were talking.
You were getting cupcakes.
Bringing cupcakes.
Oh, okay, well.
By the way,
I love that.
is that Ballinger?
Right.
It looks like Ballinger.
Does a little, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, back there.
Only if there's a scene from
That guy right up there.
Yeah, do you like Compass?
I do.
It's very hip.
Yep.
The new
So-
one is good too.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I totally the hipster thing, and our social media presence is definitely embracing the young, new things that are happening in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But I think there's like an older, long-time Vancouver that doesn't like it. And we posted, for instance, this is going to get too political, but a picture of like two male dolls holding hands, and there was an uproar about it from a lot of people. And so there's a lot of old school conservative, 50% of, anyway. So it's an interesting mix, but most people overall are excited by people moving here. And it's really, we have a great school system. There's no reason a young person, and it's still cheaper than Portland, wouldn't want to live here. So our 3 questions. Why do you live in Vancouver? What city services matter most to you? And how informed you are on the city? This is just one example of the many videos that we put out on social media.
Why do you love living in Vancouver? There are probably many reasons. Is it our beautiful surroundings? Our sense of community? Quality city services? Safe neighborhoods? Opportunities for civic involvement? Or maybe it's because of all the fun things to do here. Research says these are just some of the things that contribute to an emotional connection to where you live. Tell us why you call Vancouver home. Please take a minute to take a short survey, and together we can make our city an even better place to live.
So it's actually still going. We have one that's still out, but it was a series of these photos and these videos that kind of show people enjoying the services and benefiting from the services of Vancouver. And it was we've had way more responses than we could have imagined in terms of comparing it to the phone survey, which only had 300. So impressions-wise, we've gotten a ton, 60,000 impressions, and that means people liking, sharing, commenting on things that we posted or surveys we posted. And we've had 1,300 or about 1,300 responses on our surveys. And those are actually going to be used for something. It's not all fun. They're actually going to be used to create a funding strategy based on what people value in this city. How can we fund those priority areas? So recreation came up as number 1, but parks has traditionally not had a lot of money. So how can we raise more money for that? So it really does make a difference if you participate. It's still up if you're interested. It's on our website. And I can go really quick. Do you guys know already about hashtags? That's kind of like... Yeah, duh. A few free tools that all of you will benefit from. Have you already used these?
I've never heard of Filmora.
Filmora is malware.
Oh yeah. If anyone needs to know how we made it, it's fun and easy. That's been the biggest one for live. Canva. If you ever, even in web, do you use Canva?
I have.
So it's a free, if you're not a graphic designer, but you need to create things for emails, posters, Facebook headers, Twitter embedded posts, it sizes them perfectly. It gives you a ton of free fonts, free graphics, free illustrations, free photos. You could upload all your own content to it and your own images. So it's a really good graphic design tool. It only costs something if you want to do over 100 designs in a month or something like that. But it's so awesome, and it's made because I'm not a great graphic designer, but it's made doing a visual post other than just posting text really easy. Easy. Do you say GIF or GIF?
GIF.
The creator says GIF.
GIF?
The creator says it's GIF.
Okay, so it's GIF.
I'm a linguist.
Like peanut butter.
I know, but it stands for graphic.
Yes, it's
So
a gift.
gift.
Yeah, it's arbitrary. It's language.
Cooch, couch, Willamette, you know.
So this, you can create your own, using your own artwork. You can create an animated image for your e-newsletters, your website, very easily. And everyone knows something that's animated does a lot, well, at least on social media, it does a lot better than a still image lately. Boomerang, if you're on Instagram, you probably know that it's looped videos. So I won't show you an example, but it takes a few seconds and it loops it. So instead of a still, you're doing something dynamic. More people like it. It's crazy how many more people see that versus just a picture of a person on the slide. If they're sliding, it's like people love it. They can't get enough. And then Ripple is another super, super, super easy app for your phone that you can use to create short videos to embed in your website. We do it all the time with still images from events. So just some free tools I throw out there. What's next for the city? Our biggest thing is captioning videos. It takes a lot of time and we don't have money, but we're trying to get better about captioning. And does anyone know of free tools?
Well, it all depends. If it's YouTube, YouTube will automatically try to caption them, and then you can use you can use YouTube to refine them. It's not that hard. It does take a little time, but for short videos, it's really easy. For these other tools, like Instagram and Snapchat, good luck. You have to prepare your videos using a third-party tool where you add your own captions. It's time-consuming.
Yeah, I've been trying, and then somebody will point out that we didn't caption it something the second I don't. So it's like and I feel bad. My dad's deaf, so I should care or I should value that opinion. But it's a matter of resources, and then translating. We have a really hard time. The Spanish-speaking population in Vancouver is growing, and these are people that might speak Spanish and not very much English, but we have a really hard time reaching them, and so we're working on that.
Why don't you do 2 different broadcasts?
We try, so that for instance, the surveys, we did all of those in Spanish as well, and the images and posts in Spanish, but we've only had 2 people take the, this is really embarrassing, but we only had 2 people take it. So we're doing more like on the ground, we're going to churches and more face-to-face with that, because I think right now, our website and our newsletters and all our content is more targeted to people, or our followers are English-speaking, even if we boost it. Yeah, and then Snapchat. Who has Snapchat? Oh yeah, you guys are so hip. Bruce has Snapchat?
I did. I just didn't load it up.
I love Snapchat.
I don't have any contacts on Snapchat. Maybe
He just likes
10 or
filters.
20.
Oh, you like to just use it.
Do it for the filters.
Yeah.
My daughter thinks I would love it if I did it and be addicted to it, but
It is fun.
okay.
I think
don't
that's what
understand
younger people are
that.
about.
Beyond like making faces at each other, what is the point?
Well, what I've been, what's
Well, okay,
I'm
there's
not
another.
kidding. That's the primary use for
Yes.
it.
It is done. It's already late anyway.
You've got like news and all that stuff on there now. Like
I don't know.
You need some help?
I don't know how to turn it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like the
Short
I think it is
short
press this button.
spurts.
all the entertainment
Plus.
weekly and all that stuff is.
So all like NBC, a lot of college newspapers and broadcast stations are creating intentional content for just Snapchat. So daily news broadcasts, and it's because people aren't reading their college paper. The younger people are looking for bite size. Well, this is what they said. Yeah, and so it might be the news of the future, Snapchat.
I prefer Instagram stories.
Yeah, and Instagram too. I feel like Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook kind of is going away. But I shut this down, but I feel like I went way too long anyway, so I just have.
That was perfect.
Okay, cool.
Good info.
So let's open it up.
As a social media, how would you describe Vancouver besides us being the hipster town? How would you describe Vancouver to someone who wasn't there?
As a city? Oh, it depends on who I'm talking to, but on social media, we're definitely a fast-growing, large, urban, and welcoming city. That's how I usually think of us. I try to emphasize the welcoming part because we want to be inclusive on everything we're posting, even though we're not doing a good job of it. We're trying.
And how would you describe it to like an old classmate who thought you were in Vancouver, Canada, and you're really the other Vancouver?
Well, we always say we're the original Vancouver. We were the first Vancouver. We're actually the 4th largest city in Washington. So we're big, and we've grown faster than any other city in Washington in the past year. So I think it was, so we have 172,000 now, and last year, I'm not sure, but it was 150. So 20,000, 150 something. So 20,000 is pretty.
And that's City of Vancouver, not Clark County.
No, just a proper, yeah. And a lot of people think they live in Vancouver that are in the county too, but.
Right. Yeah, I'm Clark County.
Oh, you are,
not
okay.
Vancouver.
I'm right on the border, literally across the street.
Oh, really?
There's
a line.
Yeah.
So, Sophie, I'm going to ask you a question. Why?
Yeah, that's true.
Why is it important to have social media for the city?
Why?
Yeah.
I think, well, pretty much.
It doesn't have thumbs.
Because we would otherwise only a small number of people would be deciding everything that affects 172,000 people. So I think social media, I mean, just based on what I've been or mentioned, especially with the app, helps, well, us be more or better stewards and more accountable to problems. It's public. It creates transparency, obviously, with what's happening. And it makes city feel more accessible and authentic. Because I never would have been, I didn't even know who the mayor was until I got the job, and I Googled him. And he was in his, does anyone know Tim Levitt? So he's the outgoing, but now we have Ann McInerney.
I think, or it was the one before him. I know we found out we lived near him one year going trick-or-treating. And it was just like, we went to his door and it's like, oh, hey. And he's like, hey, how are you guys doing? It's great. Oh, I'm the mayor. Really?
Royce Pollard.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had huge chocolate bars, so I was cool with it. But that was how it was like, oh, you've been our neighbor 5 doors down for how long?
No.
That's
crazy.
You trick-or-treating or your kid?
No, that was,
Yeah, right.
as I said, it's probably the guy before him because it was a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
Probably Royce Perry.
Yeah, just to add to what you were saying, I think a politically healthy community requires participation.
Right.
Otherwise, it puts the power in the few. So social media is where everybody's communicating now. So I think part of the importance is, paper is minimal impact. TV still has some degree, but still it's social media where everybody's getting their news.
Mm-hmm.
So it's essential for business and politics.
Yeah, for better or worse with the social media thing. Because it can be exhausting.
Bruno, and then Chrissy.
What's the age and political demographic of the people who are using Vancouver social media? Because you've kind of got, you talk about having a voice, but it's always like the loudest guy in the room. It's not necessarily a true reflection of the demographic.
Right, and
of
that's
the
what we
city.
try. Yeah, I think that's an example of like with the community survey that beyond just doing a phone meeting and the printouts at council meetings, adding the voice of social media in our newsletter community, so putting messages in more than one place. But our demographics on social, Twitter is very odd. It's higher income. It's like 65,000 plus income and male. And then our Facebook is 80% women who are like mom, like the 35 to 45 types. And then, Facebook is definitely like female. And maybe it's every page. Most of the pages I worked on, it's been female or women dominated. And I was like, is that because we're putting dolls up? I don't know. But that was just 1 month, so it's not like.
So Facebook does give you that information on the click-throughs. It'll say that, okay, that's cool.
It gives you everything. It gives you when your followers are online most often. So if you want to capture the most people, post it Wednesday 8 p.m. That you can. It's crazy the analytics that you can get on any social media. Instagram's a little bit harder. There's not as much available for it, and obviously Snapchat's still new for business, but Twitter and Facebook you can go crazy, like what your followers mostly talk about, what other groups they affiliate with, and then you can find pages that are similar to yours in terms of content, to see if there's something valuable to post there.
Chrissy?
So my question kind of ties in with this totally, but because I was wondering what tracking methods you had versus the analytics for digital and social media, but your tracking methods and everything for traditional old school input.
How we track
those compared? Because like obviously the social media is bigger, and so because you were saying like the phone, you call in and leave a message or whatever,
right,
to do it. So was there other things that you were able to track in the past that could contribute to your numbers in old-fashioned type?
Am I understanding this? You mean like
Okay,
tracking?
In the past, so like 10 years ago, you would have tracked how people interacted with the city in a different way than we do today.
Right.
So are those still utilized?
Are they still tracking those? Yeah, well, traditional, like print media, we still track it. We have an agency that tracks when anything's talked about that relates to a city, like the fireworks or the homeless day center. So that still happens. As far as phone calls, yeah, those are all tracked because every time we get a phone call, there's a report that's created. So, yeah, those are. I'm trying to think of any old school because I wasn't there.
Anything besides print media and the phone?
I'm trying to think
like
if there's
campaigns or where you can.
Well, every campaign we do, we measure results. So that the app campaign, when there was bus ads associated, and after a campaign, we put out surveys in as many places as we can to see where people heard about it. But it's I mean, I feel like we never get 100% accurate results. But based on campaigns, yeah, we do measure results on specific issues. But I'm trying to think of
like CVTV, like when you have a broadcast, are you able to get demographics? Or
from Comcast?
Yeah.
No. Okay. They don't have any. They only have web views and their social media views that we track. But yeah, they have no idea if anyone's watching it on Comcast, which is so funny. Like they could put anything out. Yeah. It's kind of going away.
So I was curious, fairly popular phrase when referencing to, say, Austin, Texas, or Portland, and that is, don't move here. Mainly because the people who live there don't want the added traffic and the added cost of living whenever everybody decides to move in. And I've noticed over the last couple of years that phrase being used more often here. And I'm curious, like, do you see any negative results from that? Like, I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking how fast the city's expanding. It's probably going to be a more and more common used term. And
I saw it today a bunch of times.
Yeah, is that something that you worry about? Like, well, it's creating a negative connotation for our city because people don't want to have to deal with extra traffic and things like that. And,
right.
Like, I'd be curious, is that like a concern?
I mean, I don't want to represent the whole opinion of the. I mean, the city council has an opinion, and I have a personal opinion, but I think it just goes back to like there's that old school Vancouver, and there's the people that are newly moved Vancouver, fresh Vancouver. But you see things come up all the time, like the Max. There was an anti-Max line movement from a lot of businesses because they didn't want the crime to come to Vancouver, and that conservative mentality, or like rent increases are really unfortunate, but it's also a sign that there's more demand here. So it's just, and I think there's this anti-Portland thing too, like from the traditional Vancouver, they wanted to be different and they wanted to have more control over, so I think, but I see a lot of benefits to new people and new business, so.
It's just, I moved here 10 years ago. When I moved here, everybody, when I say I was from Vancouver, like, oh, you're from Vantucky.
Yeah.
And now we're hipsters. Like,
now we're the cool.
How did we go from being rural Vantucky, as if, that's not my word for it, but that's like what they call us over here often. And when I go work over there, and now we're apparently hip.
I know that hipster thing is crazy. Like I wouldn't 100% agree with that. Did you guys? We posted it on our Facebook, and it went like crazy. People getting really passionate about the don't move here thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny, the anti and the loving it, like the two sides. There's definitely a dichotomy in Vancouver. But I try to say, it's because I grew up in Portland and nobody liked Vancouver. And now I just bring all my friends here on the weekends. I van wash them. That's what I say.
Van wash, that's great.
And they love it here.
awesome.
Well, what's your typical day like?
It's
what do you usually
crazy.
task?
So I do social media, but that's like kind of a piece of our job, or my job. But I work with about 8 people, and we're usually working on campaigns. So the community survey campaign is the focus right now, and we have an employee wellness program, which is very random, but I do that, and we're doing a campaign to get people to move through the holidays, which is kind of random. I do a weekly internal e-newsletter. We have like 1,300 employees who get a newsletter. I monitor app requests and questions as they come into social media, and I get them answered. And I script our news show that we do. We have a City 5 news show if anyone's interested that recaps everything that's happening. So I script shows and produce them. It's so fun though. It's really fun. It's not boring. And we have a lot of creative freedom because we have a good boss. Anyway, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, Sophie.